Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Whenever and wherever you're listening to this, I hope that you're having an absolutely amazing day. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening and coming along with me on this journey. And I know that my life has changed in the past 2 months since starting on this podcast, and I hope that yours has too. I hope that we all have become brighter lights in this world and stronger and bolder in our faith. And so this is the final episode of Season 1 of the Bright podcast. We've talked a lot about being brighter Christians. We've talked about finding the light, being transformed by that light, and living out a life in the light, and then how we are to fuel and protect our light from the darkness, and then not slipping back into the darkness. And then last week, talking about the characteristics of someone who lives in the light. And so today's episode, I want it to be an encouragement to you all. And I want to reinforce kind of what we talked about for the past 2 months and talk about how we need to always be shining our light. We first looked at finding our light, and we know that our light comes from God. We know for certain that God is the source of the light, and that Jesus came down from the right hand of God to walk on this earth to be the light of the world, and then that Jesus called us to be the light of the world and showed us how we are to do so. And also we know that God and Jesus both made the distinction between the light and the darkness, and the light and the dark do not mix, do not intertwine, they don't join together, they are always separated from each other. And God made that clear on day 1 of creation, and Jesus made the same thing clear as well while he walked on this earth. And then we talked about how we are transformed by the light, and how the structure of our life is based on the structure of Jesus and not based on the structure of the world. And how we are not to conform to the world and to the darkness, but we are to be transformed because of the blood that Jesus shed on the cross. And since Jesus came down to earth to live as the perfect example for us, to show us how to live and show us how to be the light in the world, we are transformed from our old life, our old ways of living in the world, and made into a new person, into a new light that shines brighter than ever. And then we talked about continuing to live out a life in the light, to live out a life in the light, that kind of life that Jesus lived, living in the light and not living in the darkness. But, we are human. We make mistakes. We slip up. The darkness might seem greater than the light at sometimes, which is why we must protect and fuel our light. We must protect our light by putting on the whole armor of God so that we can stand against the schemes of the devil. Because what we talked about in that episode is that the devil has a bullet with your name on it. And at some point in your life, he is going to shoot that bullet and hit you when you least expect it. He's going to hit you at your lowest point. But when we put on the full armor of God, we are fully protected from anything that Satan tries to do to us. And then by surrounding ourselves with like-minded Christians, praying to God every day, reading our Bible every day, then our light is going to grow. And then last week we talked about the characteristics of living in the light and the kind of fruit that we must produce in order to live a life in the light. We must produce the same fruits that Jesus produced. We must produce the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I know after 7 weeks of talking about becoming a brighter Christian, after listening to me talk about this on and on, about finding the light, being transformed by the light, living out a life in the light, fueling our light, not slipping back into the darkness, and then the characteristics of living in the light, we have reached the final episode of Season 1 of the Bright podcast. But this is not the end of our journey to becoming brighter Christians. This is not the end of being a light in the world, because these things that we've talked about are important, but even more important are all the things that Jesus told us from the Bible. And all those things that Jesus told us, we are never to stop doing those things. Those are to be constantly in our lives, constantly be doing those things that Jesus commanded us to do. Because if we aren't going to be the light in the world, then who else is going to be the light in the world? Matthew 5:14-16 says, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. nor do they set a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before men. Jesus is talking to us. He is talking to you. He has called you to be the light of the world. In a world that so desperately needs light, Jesus has called you to be that light. In a world that is so full of darkness, Jesus has called you to be the light that brightens up the dark world. I hope that we can all remember this and apply this to our life and our walk of life and our walk with Jesus. Because Jesus, He said everything. He said everything for a reason. And there is nothing you can say or do that denies what Jesus is telling you. He is clearly and plainly saying to you that you are the light of the world and that you should not hide your light, but shine your light bright for everyone to see. And in all the work that you do, you give the glory to the God above. You are called to something more. You are called higher. You can do more than you think you can. And I know that this world is a dark place, and that which is why it is hard sometimes to be the light, which is why I want to close out the first season of the Bright podcast with some encouraging words that will hopefully lift you up and help you in your walk to being a brighter light in this world. So what I'm going to read first comes from a video that I watched several months ago. It just has really encouraged me and really helps me whenever I need some encouragement. So it said, "You are the one. You are the one God chose. You're wondering why you're going through everything right now, everything that you've ever been through. Wondering, God, why me? And that's why. I know you've heard the little sayings, God gives His toughest battles to His toughest soldiers. But truth be told, the reason why you went through all of that and why you're going through all of this is because the devil can see you for who God created you to be. And you can only see yourself for who the world has told you that you are. That's why it doesn't make sense to you. You keep asking God, why me? And God is saying, why not you? Do you not see who you are? You are the only one that I've ever made like this before. Of course, the devil is going to be scared of you. He's going to try to get in your way and distract you of everything that God has created you to be. And the thing that the devil doesn't know is what you're fully capable of. But he can see more in you than you can see in yourself. If you need proof, then here it is. He is still bothering you. And you don't understand why God is still allowing it. You don't even understand what God is trying to show you, that God is trying to show you something. God is trying to show you that He has put something valuable inside of you. But you don't even realize that you have it. A chosen person looks normal to everybody but the devil. So yes, you are going to have to go through more. You're going to face more stuff than a normal person is going to face. But God is going to use you in ways that He's not going to use a normal person. So if you don't want to go through anything, then don't ask God to take you anywhere. If you saw yourself the way the enemy sees you, everything would make sense. But you don't even realize who you are, and God can't do that for you. That's something that, something really powerful that stuck with me. That God has called us, Jesus has called us to be the light in the world. And the devil, he knows that. He's scared of that. He's scared that all of us Christians around the world are going to do what Jesus told us to do. The devil is scared to death that we're going to live out the life that Jesus wants us to live. He is scared to death that we're going to go out in the world and make disciples and spread the light to everyone and give glory to God in all that we do. He is scared to death of that. But if we do, God is going to lead us through every battle, every temptation, every struggle we have. God is going to lead us through all of that. Because it's the God above that sent His Son to this earth, who lived the perfect life, who told us the perfect things, who died and gave the perfect sacrifice so that we could have a chance at eternal life with him one day. It wasn't the devil. The devil didn't want any of that to happen. But it's up to us to do that, and nobody else can find that out but you. It's up to you to be that light in the world. And if you be that light in the world, you tell somebody else that you're there, the light of the world. And they'll tell somebody else, and tell somebody else. Endless chain reaction. And we'll just brighten up this whole world one light at a time. And so, to close out, this first ever season of the Bright podcast, I want to say just thank you to everyone who has supported me and listened to me talk. I can't wait for the future of what might happen with this podcast in the future. And so, to close, I want to read something that I wrote. And so I wrote this one night while I was watching a movie, and something that I've read a couple times to myself and haven't really shared with much people, but I've read it in a couple of my sermons I've given. But this is just something that really just encourages me, and I hope that it can bring some encouragement to you. And so this is what I wrote. Because life is a whole lot simpler than one might think. What other people think doesn't matter. Live life at your own pace. If you fall behind, don't worry. You'll catch up when you need to. It's all right to slow down and stay a while. It's all right to go fast sometimes. As long as you remember where you came from and who helped you to get there. You can go as fast as the wind blows or slow as you want to go. The sun rises and sets each day. It's all the same each day. But somewhere in this big old world, it's us. It's us, it's me, it's you. It's everything and everyone. The finish line may not always be clear, but when we get there, it doesn't matter. It's how we get there. We can climb through life and complain about how things are done, or we can sing and be happy, because Jesus saves today and tomorrow and the next day and any day after that. Because one day we will find our finish line. We will find it alone with the people we brought with us. You can go through life alone, or you can go through life with people to pick you up when you fall. You can go through life with the people who care most for you when you are down, and with the people who will stop and watch the sunset with you. No matter how long or short our race may be, it won't matter if you don't make any memories. Because good things happen and bad things come along, but Jesus will be there all along. No matter the storms life throws at us, there is always a light. No matter the hardships we face, whether big or small, Jesus is there to pick us up when we fall. And no matter the way we get there, we will get there. So slow down and take it in. Because one day we won't have to work. One day we won't get hurt. One day we won't get sick or tired. One day we will be in heaven. One day we will be with Jesus. And we can thank Him for helping us in our race. And when we finish, it's not just Jesus we see, but everyone who ran with you. Everyone who stopped with you. Everyone you brought with you is there. And at last, the race is finished. And at last, we can say that we did it. Because we will cross the finish line hand in hand with Jesus. Because we let Him light the way. Because life is a whole lot simpler than one might think if you have Jesus Christ leading the way. Thank you all for listening. I love you all. I thank you all for everything you've done so far, for supporting me. I hope that we can all grow together as Christians and all grow together as lights in this world. I just want to leave you with this, to remember who you are. Remember that you are a light in the world. Remember to shine light, and remember that Jesus always loves you.